the House of Representatives went without a speaker for 3 weeks. But this week, the House elected Congressman Mike Johnson to become the 56th Speaker.
I want to thank you all for the trust that you have instilled in me to lead us in this historic and unprecedented moment that we're in. The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down.
Johnson, the last person standing after 3 other lawmakers vowed for that spot. Joining me now is Mychael Schnell with our media partners at The Hill. Mychael, welcome back. We got a lot to cover. Let's get started with Congressman Mike Johnson as House Speaker. House Republicans hope that Johnson can steer them around many political obstacles. Do you think that he's the right person for the job?
Well, look, if the first few days of his speakership are any indication, Mark, he's getting a lot of, support from members of the Republican conference. I spoke to a number of hardline Republicans, members of the Conservative Freedom Caucus, just this week, in those few days after Mike Johnson won the speakership, and they're essentially signaling that they may be a little lighter, a little, less hardcore, for lack of a better word, on Speaker Johnson as he settles into this role. Look, they recognize that he is stepping into a very difficult situation given the current spending quagmire the House is in. Congress is in at large with that November 17th deadline looming. Of course, we saw some of these hardball tactics and pretty strong demands from conservatives in the weeks and months leading up to this moment. But a number of those conservatives are now recognizing that Johnson is stepping into a situation that he didn't necessarily ask for, that he himself did not lead to. So it seems like they're going to give him maybe a bit of a honeymoon period to get his feet settled as he settles into this role. So yeah, right now, I mean, look, he is getting a positive reception from members of the House GOP conference. We'll just have to see how long that lasts for.
A lot of political theater, Mychael. Many Democrats, as you know, have voiced their concern about Johnson. What are they saying on his appointment to House Speaker?
Yeah, Democrats are pretty concerned with Mike Johnson being in the speakership. A number of them have already dubbed him MAGA Mike, recognizing his conservative views, his him being an ally of former President Trump. Something specifically that a lot of Democrats have dug into is his involvement in efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Mike Johnson was one of the chief architects of that effort. He led an amicus brief that was in support of a Texas lawsuit that would have overturned the results of the presidential election in key states. And then on the House floor, he ended up voting against certification in some of those key states. So that's a prime concern with some of these Democrats. And we have seen a number of them point that out as they've sort of started messaging against Johnson and reacting to his election as House Speaker.
Well, Mychael, Speaker Johnson faces his first obstacle, government funding, and this is set to run out November 17th, as you know. How do you think that Johnson will how's he going to tackle this? What's the next big step that he should take to get this thing done?
Yeah, so he sent out a letter to colleagues this week sort of outlining his plan. He actually laid out a pretty rigorous short-term and long-term schedule of how the House can move ahead with appropriations through the end of the current Congress, which comes to a close at the end of next year. And essentially, he recognized that, look, if a continuing resolution is needed, which, I mean, realistically, it absolutely will be, there's no chance that the House and Senate can get through all these appropriations bills by that November 17th deadline. He's proposing a short-term stopgap bill that would fund the government through either January 15th or April 15th. And those specific dates and months are specific because his goal here is for the House to not get jammed with an omnibus by the Senate. Typically, in the past, what has happened is that as Congress comes up on that end of the year government funding deadline, they've ended up going with an omnibus bill, which is essentially one massive piece of legislation to fund the entire government. Republicans have urged against that strategy, preferring to go through these single subject appropriations bills, which we're currently seeing them work through the process of that right now. So Johnson's strategy here is that if Congress can't get its work done by November 17th, which again is highly unlikely that they're going to wrap up business by then, he wants a stopgap that goes into January or April to avoid that full year omnibus bill at the end of December.
Mychael, such a divisive climate right now in the House. What can Republicans and Democrats work on together to find bipartisan support?
Well, look, something that we're going to see come up is the farm bill, which is, a lot of the time has been bipartisan. It's a must-pass bill for Congress. There's also things like FAA reauthorization, a few other things here and there. We also saw a very bipartisan piece of legislation pass through the House just this week. It was the first thing passed under Speaker Johnson and the first thing approved since, that 3+ week stalemate without a speaker. That was a resolution condemning Hamas and expressing support from Israel as that war continues in the Middle East. So while there are these bitter divisions, both within each respective party and then with against the two parties at large, there are some areas for this bipartisanship which lawmakers have been eager to look towards and work towards. Which, as I mentioned, very shortly after Speaker Johnson was sworn in to the speakership, the House then took up that Israel resolution.
Mychael Schnell with our media partners at the Hill, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.